The Young and the Restless spoilers. Nick's drug dealer showdown turns violent. Does he go too far? Nick's fight for sobriety takes a dangerous turn when his drug dealer resurfaces, triggering a brutal confrontation that could leave someone fighting for their life. The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates indicate that Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, is set to encounter more challenges related to drugs in the near future. While it appeared that Nick had hit his lowest point during that intense moment in the motel room with Marie Kirkland, Jade Harlow, this does not imply that his journey will be free of obstacles moving forward. This time, Nick is determined to put in significant effort into his rehabilitation, striving to reclaim a sense of normalcy in his life. His primary objective is to achieve a state of recovery and work diligently towards a brighter, more positive future. However, it's important to note that Nick will still have to navigate various temptations along his path to recovery. It seems that his drug dealer may not easily accept Nick's decision to say no, as they continue to pressure him with offers of fentanyl. Recently, some intriguing behind-the-scenes photos from YNR surfaced on social media, providing a glimpse into the challenges that lie ahead for Nick. In one particular image, Nick is depicted standing over an individual who seems to be the same man who has been supplying drugs to the troubled Newman. Chris Wenchel portrays Nick's drug dealer and has appeared in numerous scenes that highlight Nick's struggle with addiction. Even in Nick's latest nightmare, this dealer was present, attempting to lure him back into substance use. A new wave of drug dealer turmoil is on the horizon, prompting Nick to potentially deliver a strong warning to make him back off. This is especially likely if the dealer begins selling to someone else close to Nick, or if he turns out to be Marie's dealer as well. Nevertheless, Nick might take things too far when it comes to the impending confrontation. The images clearly indicate that Nick is poised to attack the drug dealer, who is shown sprawled out beneath him after receiving a brutal blow. It appears that Nick's drug dealer could end up unconscious or even dead if Nick unleashes his fury and crosses the line. He may find himself facing a dire situation. Regardless of the outcome, thrilling scenes are on the way as Nick prepares for a showdown. The camera operator even captured some shots from the dealer's perspective on the ground, promising to deliver some captivating moments. Nick Newman's battle with addiction is about to take another dangerous turn on The Young and the Restless. After months of spiraling behavior, painful revelations, and desperate attempts to regain control, Nick could soon find himself face-to-face with the man connected to one of the darkest chapters of his life. And if the latest spoilers are any indication, this confrontation may become far more violent than Nick ever intended. Nick's addiction storyline has already taken him to frightening places. What began with painkillers following his injuries eventually escalated into fentanyl use, leaving his family increasingly alarmed. Even after surviving an overdose, Nick has not magically escaped the grip of addiction. In fact, head writer Josh Griffith previously emphasized that the overdose was not necessarily Nick's rock bottom. That makes the possibility of another confrontation especially troubling. Nick is running out of control. Nick has always been the Newman who believes he can handle problems himself. That stubborn independence has served him well in business and family crises. But addiction is a battle he cannot simply overpower. Joshua Morrow has previously described Nick as someone who does not naturally ask for help. His character's determination to deal with Matt Clark himself has repeatedly collided with his growing dependence on drugs. Now, Nick may be approaching another crossroads. Recent spoilers indicate that Nick's fight for sobriety could be complicated by the return of his drug dealer. The situation reportedly leads to a brutal confrontation, raising the possibility that Nick could lose control completely. For Nick, this is not merely about getting revenge. The drug dealer represents everything he has been trying to escape: temptation, manipulation, secrecy, and the version of himself he desperately wants to leave behind. But what happens when that person is standing directly in front of him? A showdown that could explode. Nick may enter the confrontation believing he has one simple objective: make the danger disappear. That sounds like classic Nick Newman. Unfortunately, Nick's judgment has been seriously compromised. His addiction has already contributed to mood swings, outbursts, and increasingly reckless decisions. Earlier in the year, he was shown obtaining fentanyl from a dealer, demonstrating just how deeply the problem had progressed. So when emotions rise, Nick may not be thinking clearly. A heated argument could quickly become physical. One shove could become a punch. One punch could lead to a catastrophic injury. And that is where the biggest question comes into play. Does Nick go too far? Nick is capable of violence when someone threatens his family. His history with Matt Clark has proven just how personal revenge can become. In February, Nick even set a plan in motion to trap Matt after deciding that the authorities were not solving the problem quickly enough. But confronting a drug dealer while struggling with addiction is an entirely different situation. Nick may think he is taking control of his life when, in reality, he could be surrendering control all over again. Forced to pick up the pieces. If Nick crosses a line, the consequences will not stop with him. Sharon, Victor, Victoria, Noah, and the rest of the Newman family have already watched Nick deteriorate. His addiction has become impossible to hide, and recent episodes have focused heavily on the emotional aftermath of his relapse and his efforts to recover. That means another violent incident could destroy whatever fragile trust Nick has managed to rebuild. Victor, in particular, may struggle with what he sees. The Newman patriarch is accustomed to solving problems through force and intimidation himself. But watching his son lose control could force Victor to confront a painful reality. Nick cannot defeat addiction by fighting everyone around him. And Sharon may be even more frightened. She has repeatedly seen the difference between the man Nick wants to be and the man addiction is turning him into. If she discovers that Nick has seriously hurt someone, she may finally realize that protecting Nick does not mean protecting him from consequences. Could Matt Clark be behind it? There is another possibility that could make this storyline even more explosive. Matt Clark has been deeply connected to Nick's downward spiral. Nick's addiction became intertwined with his long-running conflict with Matt, creating a dangerous combination of revenge and substance abuse. Griffith has previously explained that Nick's addiction storyline developed alongside the return of Matt Clark, making the two plots essentially cause and effect. That means the drug dealer confrontation could potentially be more than a random encounter. Could someone be manipulating Nick? Could Matt have another plan? Or is Nick finally taking matters into his own hands without realizing that he is playing directly into his enemy's strategy? Those questions could turn an already intense addiction storyline into a much larger Newman family crisis. Nick's real battle is with himself. The most compelling part of this story is that Nick's biggest enemy may no longer be Matt, his dealer, or anyone else. It may be Nick himself. For months, he has tried to convince everyone that he can control the situation. But addiction does not work according to Newman rules. Money, power, threats, and determination cannot simply make it disappear. His near-fatal overdose should have been a wake-up call. Instead, the consequences have continued to follow him. That is why another violent confrontation could be the moment when Nick finally realizes that his actions have consequences far beyond his own pain. If he seriously injures someone, Nick could face legal trouble, family rejection, and another devastating blow to his recovery. And if the person he hurts dies, the entire Newman family could be thrown into crisis. For now, the biggest question is not whether Nick can win the showdown. It is whether he can walk away before the fight changes his life forever. Because on the young and the restless, revenge has a way of becoming its own addiction, and Nick may be dangerously close to discovering that winning the fight could cost him everything.